and you're selling something that you know has no value.
We are selling to willing buyers at the current fair market price.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is a morning somewhere for February 27th, 2024. My name is Burnie Burns, sitting right next to me, so close to her all-time high, Ashley Burns. How you doing, Ash?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm on a run.
Yeah. We're referring, of course, to Bitcoin is on a big run right now. It's the last 24 hours. We are recording this at 6 a.m. our time, which is what, midnight in America, at least in Austin?
Yeah, that's about midnight central.
Yeah. So Bitcoin's been on a run of about 10% in the last 24 hours, up to now $56,000 if you're keeping score at home.
Well, that puts it within striking distance of its all-time high. I remember, I think of the all-time high for Bitcoin as about 60,000. I know it actually went up to just shy of 69,000, but I feel like 60,000 was kind of the thing. There was a spike above it, but I don't feel like that lasted very long.
You know, I was looking at the chart. It's weird you bring that up because you know, when it's going towards the all-time high, it makes sense you would go back and look at the all-time chart. And I didn't remember that when it hit its last all-time high, it got really close twice. Like, it got up in the 60s twice. In April of 2021, it went up to, and this is the weird thing too about Bitcoin, is not all the charts are consistent. Like, if you look at the stock market, you're going to get a consistent price at what it closed at. But I think a lot of the times the charts that you're reading are based on different exchanges where Bitcoin is sold or where crypto is sold. So you're not going to get very consistent readings. Like, Yahoo shows an entirely different all-time high according to their charts than does a CoinDesk, and I assume like a Gemini or a Binance or something like that. But in April of 2021, the Bitcoin reached, according to the CoinDesk chart, it reached about 62,000 on that. And then it plummeted all the way down to the low 30s. It shows here it actually got in the high 20s by midsummer in July of 2021, and then raced back up to the all-time high, which CoinDesk shows somewhere around like 68.5.
Yeah, I feel like
is the all-time high.
I feel like I should remember that. That's a pretty significant drop. That would have created an awful lot of the same stories that the lasting drop did, as far as people buying high and then being stuck.
The last all-time high, the big story was it was going to 100K, which it didn't. And people were talking about how that in the previous cycle it had done that dip and then raced to its all-time high. It's just that the two peaks were so similar in that last run. So it's kind of crazy. Who knows what's going to happen? We just know that it's on a bit of a run right now, and it seems like it's within striking distance of its previous all-time high.
Which to me, what that ends up meaning is we're going to be hearing a lot more people talk about it. And this is when that FOMO might start to kick in, and there will be a lot of people agitated that they might be missing out on the next run, or they have to buy in now, and so on. So I think we'll hear a lot more stories like that again, people hoping to get in if this one is going to go on an even higher run this time.
Do you mind if I ask you, where did you hear about it? Like, you say people are going to be talking about it. Where are people talking about it?
For me, it was always online. I guess one of the major differences is that I was reading Twitter a lot more during the last run, and now I don't.
That's a really interesting
There will probably
point.
be a lot of articles as well.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of Twitter either anymore. And that's where the Bitcoin and the crypto stuff is really just kind of like natively surfacing on its own in my feeds. I could go look for it on places like Reddit or go look at a chart. But yeah, I feel like it's not surfacing on its own now. Maybe the difference is Twitter. That's a really interesting point.
Yeah, I think that with so many people that have left Twitter, I don't feel like they've gone to somewhere else. I think that there are a lot of sort of, you would be happy to be competitors. There's Blue Sky, I think, is gone public now. There's Mastodon, if you can get past the picking a server and all that stuff. There's Threads, which is the one that I personally use. I've had a good experience with the audience on there, but it's not nearly as active. So I don't feel like we haven't all gone to somewhere specific, unless all the cool people went somewhere and didn't tell us.
I think people are just using it less. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I spent a little bit of time on Twitter the other day, and it was just an absolute cesspool. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was. I went to go look up a person whose son had passed away, and she was the CEO of a company that we had worked pretty closely with, and we knew her, and her university-age son had suddenly passed away. And I went and looked at it, and it was just people saying the most horrifying, horrible, vitriolic stuff. I couldn't fucking believe it, and yet at the same time, somehow I could believe it as well. Really bizarre. While we're talking about business stuff, though, I would like to talk about a little bit of follow-up on our post office discussion from yesterday about the British post office. You know, that a lot of times they tend to be in like little just shops with people that you would normally wouldn't associate with being, you know, Royal Mail employees that are running local post offices. I actually prefer that way more. I think the system in America, I think the post office is one of the weirdest entities in American culture. It's really bizarre. And have you ever heard the urban legend, Ashley, that postal trucks are the only vehicles that are legally allowed to run a red light? Have you ever heard that before?
What? No, I've never heard that. That seems like that would be ambulances and police.
Right.
Not why?
Right.
Why can a postal vehicle run a red light?
It was a trick question they would ask you, which is like, what vehicle always has the right of way, and what vehicle can legally run red lights? And people would say ambulance, or they would say fire engine. And the answer was the postal trucks, because postal vehicles are federal vehicles and traffic laws are state laws. So they're exempt from everything. And the rumor was that if you got in an accident with a post office's truck, you would be at fault.
No matter what, huh?
But it turns out it's not true. It's an urban legend. And it's one that lasted for a really long time. But it does kind of play into that mystique that the post office has, which, are they a private company? Are they a government entity? Like, they can put Mickey Mouse on stamps and things like that. Or the cat in the hat, you know, these corporate logos, they can put them on stamps, but they're still part of the government somehow, but they're not. They're a private entity. It's a really weird organization.
I think the thing is they used to be a federal agency, and I think they got spun off several decades ago and privatized, basically. So it's now a company. By
Nixon?
No, it was after that. Wasn't it?
Is the post office a government agency? Let's find out here. We're going to look this up. The post office, see, I'm reading the summary thing here, and I shouldn't be reading the summary. This is the ChatGPT summary. The Post Office, or the United States Postal Service, is an independent agency of the executive branch of the United States federal government. It is responsible for providing postal services in the U.S. and its territories. The Post Office became an independent agency in 1971 after the Postal Reorganization Act of 1970 transformed it from a cabinet-level agency to an independent establishment. What is an independent agency of the executive branch? And if you're not familiar with U.S. government, the executive branch is the branch that includes the president and the vice president. Then we have the legislative branch, that includes Congress. And then we have the judicial branch, which includes all of these ghouls in their black robes that destroy one's quality of life.
So it's like this.
And then we have
weird,
the post office, which is just
zombie
weird.
hybrid.
We're off on a kind of a UK, or I'm off on a UK tangent here. But it also talks about, reminds me of that the Secret Service that protects the president, the guys in the black suits and sunglasses and the earpieces, they started as a part of the U.S. Mint. That's where the Secret Service began.
Wait, what?
I know. It's really strange origins to some of these things. And that reminds me, too, I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the podcast before, but I ran into a really weird thing when I went to the bank in the UK and I had to pay somebody some money, and I had to pull out some money, and the person behind the counter said, "What's the money for?" And I said, "What?" And she goes, "No, we have to ask, what are you going to use the money for?" And I couldn't believe she would ask that question. And so I said, "I'm just going down to London and we're going to buy something and they want cash for it. And it'd be nice to have some cash while we're down here." And then she said, "Oh, well, let me make sure you have some English notes and not Scottish notes." And once again, I laughed and go, "Ha ha ha. Yeah, right." And she goes, "No, that's a thing. They won't take Scottish money in England.
Do they legally not take Scottish money, or is it one of those like Scottish money is not good enough? Like, is it a cultural thing? Because I know there's a bit of rivalry that happens culturally within the UK between Scotland and England.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see a reason why you couldn't take it. It's in the country. At the same time, if it does go to show, if people don't assign it a value, then it has no value. It's only worth it if people will take it, and they won't take it. They literally will turn it away and say, no, I won't do that.
Man, that's crazy.
But yeah, it was weird to go down there and realize that they have different money. The other weird thing, and maybe it's not actually that weird, it's just that we do it differently in the US, is that the money is printed by the banks. It's not printed by the Royal Mint. The money, I think the coinage is done by the Royal Mint, but the notes are done by the bank. Like, it'd be weird in America if you got a dollar bill that didn't look like other dollar bills and it said from Bank of America on it.
Right. Like, specifically, they have different designs. So you might get a £1 note from
totally different.
The Bank of Scotland and a £1 note from, I want to be very clear about this, the Royal Bank of Scotland, which is a different bank. And they will have different designs on them. And they will say which bank made them. It's so strange.
Yeah, it's really, to us, that's weird. To us, that's weird because every dollar bill looks like every other dollar bill, except for the fake $1 million bills that have Donald Trump on them, which I need to get one of those soon. But yeah, it's wild. Hey, Ashley, can I want to talk while we're talking about Trump. That just brings to mind that Shane Gillis, who does such a killer Trump impression, he was the host of Saturday Night Live this weekend. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, I watched his monologue. He had some funny sketches.
He did a really interesting thing during his monologue. And people should go watch it because there's a really interesting television moment in that where he does a joke about his dad being a volunteer coach for a girls' sports team. And it's kind of a running thing for him is that he insults his dad and his fans absolutely love it. And everyone in the audience was laughing. You hear the laughter on TV and everything. And then suddenly he goes, you guys didn't think that was funny? Me bringing my dad all the way here to insult him? Yeah, I thought it was funny. And it made me realize just how much that response on the monologue must be sweetened because it did not seem like that joke did not go over. It seemed like the audience loved that joke, but he reacted as though it fell flat.
Yeah, he did. I did see that part, and I was curious about it because from what I had seen of the reaction, it was fine as well. But that's what you do, right? Is you can sweeten things up for broadcast. That's really, really common. It's not quite the same as having the big box that people light up and go applause for audiences. I don't know if they even still do that now, but it did seem like it was going fine, and then he was reacting like it wasn't going fine, and it actually confused me a little bit as a viewer.
Did you ever see the YouTube video that somebody did where they showed an episode of 2.5 Men and they just took out the laugh track entirely?
Oh, it was so awkward. It was I didn't see one of 2.5 Men, but I did see one of Big Bang Theory, I think. And it was wild how different the show was without people laughing at it, without basically that audio cue. Find this funny.
Well, it's also because they also had, the pauses in there. So there was so much dead space in the conversation because, you're waiting for the laugh and everything. It reminded me of one of the earliest viral hits on the web. Do you remember Garfield without Garfield?
Yes, I do.
Did you ever read that?
So it was the Garfield comics, but Garfield himself had been removed. So what you saw instead was a lot of John talking to himself and having this very sad life. He was still talking to Garfield, but there was no Garfield there, and it was like this oddly compelling, I don't know, art experiment.
It was very existential. Yeah, it was just seemed like this lunatic man in his house by himself, talking to himself and like comforting himself and also insulting himself. It was it was really strange, but like you said, something about it was really, really compelling. And speaking of things that are compelling, and speaking of television, Ashley, I think I have a new favorite television show. And I don't know if you've seen this. I don't even know how to describe it. I'll just tell you what I saw. It was a clip from a television show. I think it was German. They sounded like they were German. They were speaking. I think it was German. It's a dude and he's sitting at a podium with a bunch of cameras on him, and he's got a plate. And on the plate is a pretzel, like a big soft pretzel. Bavarian pretzel, maybe. Maybe they were Bavarian.
Was it salted?
And he's got a knife. Yeah, it's got, but only a little bit. It wasn't obscene. It wasn't like American like carnival salted. You ever get one of those and it's like there's so much salt on it? It's like a crust. It's like more salt than it is pretzel.
Oh, those are the best kind.
Oh my God, your lips will fall off after that. But he's got a knife and he's over this pretzel and he puts it down to cut the pretzel, and then he looks at it and he makes an adjustment and then he makes the cut. Okay, so he cuts it into 2 pieces. And then this is where it gets amazing. He takes the 2 pieces, he walks over to a different station where there's 2 scales, and he puts it on there, and they both come out to like 40 grams. Even, perfectly even cut, like right down the middle. Both sides 40 grams, and the crowd goes nuts, and the I guess there's judges, and they're like, he did it. Ashley, I don't know what this show is. All I know is I never want to watch any other show ever again. I want to watch just this show on repeat. I want an entire cable network devoted to cutting things in half perfectly. We'll put the clip of that in the link up so that other people can enjoy it as well.
Yeah, it seems like we need to learn a lot more about this show. The perfect cutting of things.
What is that? Like, that's the weirdest thing about the internet, is that it has given rise to all these different forms of entertainment, like ASMR, that we didn't even know was an entertainment. It was just like people responded to things. Like if you go back and look at, access television and early cable stuff, you get a guy like Bob Ross. You didn't know he was an ASMR star because we didn't know what ASMR was. But for whatever reason, people would watch Bob Ross paint a painting super slowly, the same painting over and over again, and just talk in a nice, droning, calming voice. But it's interesting because where would they have ever had a show where you cut things in half and measure how well you did that?
I like it. I like the internet's enabled us to identify these sort of like niche interests and through sheer massive scale, make them a viable thing. Like podcasting.
Do you watch anything like that?
I watch a lot of gardening videos on Instagram. I find them very relaxing. Just people going through and talking about what they're planting right now or how they're getting their garden ready for spring and showing the seedlings or showing how they're uncompacting the soil. And it's I'm not going to plant the same things because I'm not in remotely the same climate or region, but I can't not watch and find out what they're going to do with their garden.
Okay. I'm going to tell you about something I know that you watch that doesn't make any sense. And I watched it to make fun of you for watching it. That was my initial plan. And then I got completely sucked into it as well.
Hold on.
Do you know
what
it is?
Did it involve Vampire Brothers?
She looks like she could have been somebody who starred on Vampire Diaries. I'll just do this. It's Tuesday. Let's get dressed.
Oh my God. I love her so much. I don't see her. I've stopped using TikTok, which is where I saw her a lot. And then it took me ages to find her again on Instagram. But it's this lady. And I feel like she maybe went viral for a period of time because I swear I saw more about her in a lot of places. I'm going to find her Instagram. And you know what? I'll even go find her TikTok and I will put it on there because she is absolutely compelling. She'll say to the camera, "It's Tuesday. Let's get dressed." She claps her hands and then she goes through every element of her wardrobe and she chooses between 2 things: 2 handbags, 2 different trousers, 2 tops, 2 insane shoes. And she picks all these things and then comes out looking like a motherfucking rock star. She looks amazing every single time. And
you get if you watch enough of these, this is not content for me at all, but she's a very striking woman and her fashion sense is absolutely incredible. But then after a while, there's only so many choices she has in her wardrobe. So you'll see things making an appearance, like she'll put the Gucci bag up against the Fendi bag. And you're like, well, you got to go with the Fendi bag. And then she goes with the Gucci bag. And you're like, Sammy, what are you doing? You're off the rails. And then she puts her outfit together and it always looks amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, her name is like Sammy J. Coates or something. Anyway, we'll put that in the link dump so that you can become as invested in her fashion choices as we have become, because she's really amazing. And yeah, entertaining. And for a thing that is just putting clothes on. It is, I promise you, it is not that exciting when I put clothes on for the day.
Well, it's Tuesday for us, everyone, so let's get dressed. And maybe you'll choose the Fendi bag today, and maybe you'll choose the Gucci bag, but that's entirely up to you. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow, Wednesday. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.